Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is Kevin E's direct. CED, Kevin E's direct. The actual definition says CED is expressed as difference in percentage of unassisted bursts with a higher value indicating a greater Kevin E's in first calf heifers. It predicts the average difference in ease with which a sire's calves will be born when he is bred to first calf heifers. So CED, a very important metric for CED, is this only applies to first calf heifers. So the higher the number on CED, the higher is better. Right? Higher the number, the better. CED doesn't necessarily apply to cows. You know, this is only for first calf heifers if you have to assist them or not, right? So one thing I will say about CED and BW are highly correlated. They're correlated. If BW goes down, CED will go up. Birth weight goes down, CED will go up. So you guys breeding for your target bull is a heifer bull market, right? So you're breeding. You've got a lot of AI programs around you, and guys want to buy registered bulls to use to put out on their heifers to clean up their AI program. So if you're breeding for that target audience, CED is based off on your own herd. Okay? Well, so if you don't have any assisted bursts from that bull in your entire herd, and this is still high, this will not go up. The Angus Association will lower this based off this weight. So for example, let's say your birth weight is 1.1. They will not give you a CED of 27. It's not going to happen. It just won't happen. It didn't make sense, right? How can this be high and this be high? See how they're correlated? So even if you turn in, the seed stock producers went through this one time already. Guys got really ticked off. Angus Association come back and their CED was like 8 or 9, and they came back and they called the Angus Association and they said, I just don't get it. I don't understand. CED, we didn't have to pull any calves. We've never had to pull any calves. We're working on our CED. Why will you not give us a high CED number? Well, it's this right here. These two numbers are highly correlated. You cannot have a high BW and a high CED. They're reverse correlated. So if you want a high CED, you need to have -2 birth weight at least to get a CED higher than 15. That might not be exactly right, but that's pretty daggone close. Check the EPDs. Another thing with CED and birth weight, another thing that's correlated, and it's very rare, but you cannot have a high CED, a low birth weight, will not result in a high yearling weight or $B. Right? You cannot have, that's why there's different categories, especially Angus Power Rankings. You have bulls that are going to be bred for heifer target market, AI programs, and that sort. And then you have bulls that are bred for cows, high growth bulls, stud bulls, all that stuff there. But a low birth weight plus a high CED will not equal a high yearling weight or $B, a high $B. Right? I think the only exception to this would be WR Journey. WR Journey has a low birth weight a high CED, a very good yearling weight, and a high $B. He is a complete exception to this rule, 100%. That's just something to remember with BW and CED as well. It can happen. You can have that equation, but it's very, very rare. And the bulls that do break that equation are bulls that are going to go as AI sires, and they're going to be extremely high marketed AI sires. Okay, so we're going to jump back to BW birth weight. I got to talking to a colleague of mine, and we got talking really about a pretty important piece here. Okay, so birth weight is, okay, so let me just go ahead and write this on the board right here. If you go to your table at the bottom where it gives you the breed averages, okay, look at the table there, and it says birth weight, the average birth weight was plus 1.1, right? Write this a little bigger so you can see it. Okay, so this is what we got to talking about, was in birth weight, the calf is born. So that's square one, right? So whenever you're talking about birth weight, 0 would have to be the mean. Well, what is 0? The calf is not coming out weighing 0, right? The average bull for this year, 2016, bull weight, birth weight, was 80 pounds. The average heifer weight, 75. Okay, so in the Angus Association, in their database, they say the average bull this year weighed 80 pounds of birth weight. The average heifer weighed 75 pounds. Okay, now we're going to get really kind of tricky. So birth weight is when the calf was born, right? So 0 would be 80 pounds if it was a bull. 0 would be 75 pounds if it was a heifer. The average birth weight metric this year was 1.1 plus, right? So what can you gather from that information right there? Well, you could say that the average birth weight you can say the average herd of the Angus herd as an average grew by 1.1 pounds. This is how you can derive that. So when you talk about trends and you're trying to forecast where this market's going and you're trying to figure out your breeding purposes and everything, simple math, if 0 is the mean, is the average, in breeding this year, the herd grew by 1.1 pounds. Our calves, on average this year, were 1.1 pounds heavier than they were last year. You can say that the Angus herd is growing. It grew by 1.1 pounds. You might say, no, that's not very much. You're talking about the entire herd. And you're also talking, this is from registered data. Breeders are wanting bigger calves. I just proved it right here. So it's just something to think about, and it's something that when you're breeding, you know, everybody's wanting these low birth weight calves, low birth weight bulls. Well, the data showing that people are not breeding that way. You can argue with it what you want, but we grew by 1.1 pounds this year. Okay, last metric I'm going to talk about on the production EPDs is weaning weight. Okay, some guys don't sell their calves at weaning time. They sell their calves at yearlings or as bulls, whatever your program is set for. Weaning weight's important because it takes in the metric also of milk production, your milk production. So whenever you're trying to figure out how much milk this cow is producing, it's also derived with weaning weight, and we'll touch base on milk in maternal EPD section. But that's also one reason why we have the weaning weight section. But let's say you're a commercial breeder, you're a commercial guy, you don't have wheat pasture, you sell your calves, all right, you know, you wean them, take them to sell. Well, if you're weaning weight, obviously you're going to want a higher weaning weight. If this is your program, the higher the better. So let's say in this example, the actual definition is expressed in pounds. It is a predictor of a sire's ability to transmit weaning growth to its progeny compared to that of other sires. So it's basically, it's the same thing as yearling weight. It's just this metric is measured at weaning time. And we'll touch more in milk production in the maternal EPD section. But weaning weight and milk, they do cross. They're kind of derived from each other. There is a connection between the two. It's something that you need to pay attention to and be aware of. That's it. All right, next merit, RADG. This is the residual average daily gain. I don't think I even need to read the definition from the Angus Association on this. This literally is exactly what it means. It's the average daily gain over the average of the Angus herd based on everything is given equal amount of feed. A really good real life scenario where this metric is something that somebody would really want to pay attention to. This is, obviously you want to pay attention to yearly weight and weaning weight, but if your RADG is a high score, let's say you're a commercial producer and you have a lot of wheat pasture, and you're going to AI all your cows, right? And those calves, you're going to, after you wean them, you're going to graze them out on wheat pasture. Well, if you graze them to a high growth bull and the residual average daily gain is extremely high, these calves are going to put on a lot of weight fast. So when you hear these guys all the time, well, my calves gain 2.3 pounds a day, my calves gain 3.3 pounds a day. Well, if you take this metric and yearling weight into, you study it hard and you look and you analyze those two, if this is your goal, is to do a lot of wheat grazing with your calves, then this is something that you definitely need to look into. The higher the number, the better on this. And if, let's say the last 5 years, your calves average 2.5 pounds a day, and this year you AI'd all your cows, and you AI them to a high growth bull with a high residual average daily gain, I mean, you're going to see that growth rate go up to 3 pounds a day, maybe even more than that. And it's just all off the genetic factor. They're all going to eat the same amount of wheat pasture every day, right? They all have the same access to it. But if these calves are going to gain more off the wheat pasture, this is something that a lot of people take into consideration for that type of program. Okay, next thing we're going to talk about is SC, scrotum circumference, scrotal circumference. Okay, let me just read you the definition from the Angus Association. It says that expressed in centimeters, that's a very important note right there, it's centimeters, not inches, as a predictor of the difference in transmitting ability for scrotal size compared to other sires. So yeah, this is also a sliding scale, same as yearling weight, birth weight, and that deal there. It's a sliding scale, so that's how you can compare two bulls. But one factor on this is the higher the scrotum size, you're going to get higher the scrotal size, you're going to have a higher conception rate with your heifers or whoever he's breeding to. Because if he has more semen, then he's going to be able to sire more heifers or cows, right? The other study that came out, and this just came out recently, is if the sire has a high scrotum, then the conception rate in his daughters as heifers is also higher. And that recently came out, and I can't remember exactly where I read that article, but that was something that was extremely interesting to me, because whenever I go to retain my heifers, my heifers that I retain, I will AI them. I'll AI them to some sort of Kevinese bull, probably Yaw Final Answer or Keneally Stingray. But if they have a high, if I can't decide between the two heifer bulls, I'll look at scrotum size. Whichever has the higher scrotum size is the one I'll AI it to, because I want heifer pregnancies. Everybody wants higher heifer pregnancy, higher conception rate. So if this is something that is proven that's going to give me a higher conception rate just off genetics, then that's something that I'm going to take into consideration. Okay, first, next we're going to talk about DMI. DMI stands for dry matter intake. It's a production EPD metric. It's basically it's one of the metrics for feed efficiency. It's expressed in pounds, and it's really just something you have to look overall. You know, is this calf, is this size calf going to eat 5 pounds more a day of feed? It's going to up your feed bill. It's going to up your. I mean, you got to put more feed out, obviously, right, to make them gain. To gain weight. You know, if calf 1 eats 25 pounds of dry matter a day, and he's gaining 5 pounds, or he's gaining 3 pounds, and then calf 2 is only eating 20 pounds of dry matter, and he's still gaining 3 pounds. So obviously everybody's going to go with calf 2, and this is just it's a metric that goes into the feed efficiency programs. Everybody's been hearing about these programs. R.A. Brown Ranch, they're doing a lot of research with it. Well, actually, everybody's doing a lot of research with it, because yet again, people are trying to get more with less, right? So if you can cheapen your feed bill and still gain the same amount of weight, it's no brainer. Everybody's going to do it, and this is one of the metrics that allows you to measure that genetic value. Okay, next metric is docility, DOC. Docility, I'll just read you the definition right here. It says, is expressed as difference in yearling cattle temperament with a higher value indicating more favorable docility. It predicts the average difference of progeny from a sire in comparison with another sire's calves in herds where temperament problems are not an issue. This expected difference should not be realized. So what this means, obviously the higher the docility score, the better. And this is another metric that should be extremely looked into, because if you have a higher docility in those next calf heifers, well, have you ever tried to sell somebody a crazy bull? It doesn't really work. So, or a crazy cow, they will not bring as much, obviously. But the biggest deal is the higher this number in his daughters, also in his bulls, they'll have higher conception rates. Meaning, if the bull, the bull is high-headed and he's jumping fences and he's going rogue and he's more so worried about fighting the bull next to him. I mean, now you just bred a bull with an extremely low docility, and he's more so worried about fighting the neighbor's bull, jumping the fence, and constantly putting him up. He really isn't sitting there trying to breed your cows. He's trying to breed the county's cows. So that's a factor that goes into docility. That's something you need to look at. And then second of all, your own safety. If the bull is high-headed and always trying to flip your four-wheeler and stuff, I mean, that's something else you got to look into when you talk about docility. And then third, that bull's heifers. If his daughters are crazy and nuts, and you're trying to get them bred, and I mean, you're gonna have a lower conception rate every single time. Here's a proven fact. In our AI program, we did a study last year. We bred 400 and so heifers. Every single one that broke their nose on rebar because they were just flat crazy, not one of them bred. We had a 0% conception rate on any heifer that broke its nose or broke its face on the rebar out here, just because they were just absolutely crazy and broke their face. So docility is something you really need to look into. Something that we weigh heavily in our rankings, and we do that for everybody's safety, and just it's a proven fact. You want more docile cattle. It'd be YH, yearling height, EPD. Read the Angus Association definition of YH. It says is a predictor of a sire's ability to transmit yearling height expressed in inches compared to that of other sires. To me, this really doesn't apply to most commercial guys. I mean, if you're a registered producer, seed stock producer, then I know some guys that do worry about this and look into this, but to me, this really isn't a very important metric to waste a lot of time on. Obviously, everything in EPD is definitely important, or it wouldn't be there. But there's other things that are more important than some. YH is one of the things that, sometimes you don't even see it listed in the EPD. They completely take it out. So it's nice to know what YH means, but to me, this isn't something that you need to stress about or worry about. It's not that big a deal, but it is kind of, just kind of curious to know what it is.